Draw! The first thing you're going to need to draw the breast is the torso. More importantly, the rib cage. In a future video I'll go into more detail on how to draw the rib cage, but for now all you really need to know is that it's an egg-shaped oval. Next you're going to want to find the center line of the rib cage, and then divide the rib cage into thirds. The bottommost line is going to indicate the upper peak of the ribs, where the lower ribs arch into the xiphoid process. Generally all breast sizes will start at the center portion of the rib cage, however bigger breasts may fall lower than this line past the end of the ribs. Usually for appeal, artists tend to keep the bottom of the breast above the end of the rib cage, and sometimes you see in anime and manga drawings that they might lengthen the rib cage in order to achieve this effect. Important parts that will determine the shape of the breast are the pectoral muscles, the arms, and the collarbones. The parts of the breast that you see near the armpits are part of the pectoral muscle, as it inserts into the humerus. The breasts themselves are an additional fatty mass that sit on and extend from the lower portion of the pectoralis muscle. This mass blends into the pecs, giving the appearance that they are one smooth connected mass. This is also going to be the portion that will grow or shrink depending on the breast size. Therefore, the upper portion of the chest will generally remain flat as it contains little to no fatty tissue. Of course, this varies from person to person. The heart method. Let's start off with the medium size before we go into either extreme. So let's say the woman has a pretty sizable heart. Start by making a point in the space between the collarbones. This is also called the suprasternal notch. From here you're going to want to draw an inverted heart shape. How big or small or round you draw this shape will determine the size and form of the breasts. Keep in mind that what I'm teaching you in this video are idealized archetypes of these three sizes. In reality, people come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, so these aren't necessarily rules that you have to strictly follow, but more so guidelines that are going to help you map out your drawing. Then comes what I call the loop-de-loop. In order to get the inner curve of the breasts, have the inner line of the heart shape extend towards the outer neck of the figure. On smaller breasts, since there's less weight and less overlap on the ribcage, the inner fold will be shorter and conform more to the heart shape. On larger breasts, the inner fold will be longer and will start to crease towards the center of the sternum, deviating slightly from the loop. This curve may change depending on whether the breasts are pushed up or not, and if they are, then the extended line will move outwards, further away from the neck, and eventually into the armpit once they are pushed upwards to their maximum position. Finally, locate where to place the nipples. First, you want to start off by dividing the breast into three sections. Draw a horizontal contour line 2/3 of the way down. Then you're going to want to draw a contour line from the suprasternal notch down the middle of the breast. Keep in mind that the breasts point outwards from the spine, so usually the nipples will not be pointing in a straight direction. The intersection of these two lines will mark the placement of the nipple. Keep in mind that these masses are soft and mostly composed of fat. Most artists use the comparison that they are like water balloons, and will squash and stretch depending on what external forces are acting on them. Therefore, you're going to want to keep in mind what position your character is in, and their relation to the floor, as gravity is going to be pulling them downwards. For example, if a figure is laying down, the breasts are going to roll down the sides of the rib cage, as the rib cage is curved, and tuck in towards the armpits. And if a person is bent over and the front of the rib cage is facing closer to the floor, the breasts are going to hang off and be pulled in the direction of gravity. A secondary factor would be the arms, or any other external force. If they are pushed together, the breasts will squish inwards. If the arms are spread wide, they're going to stretch outwards and follow the pecs. Remember that although the shape changes, the volume remains the same. So the volume taken up by the arms or by anything squishing the breasts must be displaced in the areas that are not being squished. Although the breasts will look different depending on the perspective used, the same principles I've mentioned still apply. And to an extent you can use modified versions of the heart method to help you draw these different angles. The side view requires the most modification to the heart method, and the loop is no longer needed as the inner breast cannot be seen. Instead, only half a heart will be drawn. Remember that the top part of the chest is flat, so the breast will only start to protrude once it reaches the fatty portion. How smooth or sharp this plane shift is depends on the person. In this angle, you can also see the minor bump of the areola. This subtle bump is a cause of the bundle of lactiferous sinuses under the areola, which push the skin outwards. How defined this bulge is will vary from person to person. Remember that even though you're seeing it from the side, the breast is still going to connect to the pectoral muscle, as the line created by this junction will be more noticeable at this angle. On larger breasts, the skin tends to fold right where the fatty tissue ends under the pecs, causing a defined crease. This and how heavy the person is going to soften the pec line. and may seem to not fully connect anymore, but the line can usually still be seen closer to the armpit. The extreme top and bottom views are fairly similar in terms of construction. Try imagining a 3D heart shape and rotating it backwards so only either the top or the bottom of the heart is seen. While the top view will more or less retain the basic heart shape, in the bottom view you will really only see the two protrusions. By starting between the collarbones just as before, you can use the heart to define the underside. It may help from both perspectives to draw a wide angle starting from the spine and pointing outwards to define the nipple placement and the direction of the breast. Remember to curve the underside as it tucks into the ribcage, conforming to the curve of the ribs. Some secret tips if you're feeling a little saucy. If you're having trouble mapping out the breasts in different angles, you can use this secret Shaolin method. Try drawing 2D teardrop shapes or ovals in the middle portion of the ribs, almost as if you're placing a sticker on the ribcage. This will act as the imaginary back wall of the breasts, as it connects to the body. With all this in mind and just a little bit of practice, you'll start to be able to draw breasts in any angle. Draw! That's all we have for today, but if you want to learn some more things about drawing, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video.